The other day I was at a store, they sell spiritual books and stuff like that. And they had these little rocks that somebody had picked up from the beach, and they had painted like all these spiritual words on them. And one of the words which I didn't agree with was the word hope. And I was just talking to somebody. I said, hope is not really a spiritual word. And they said, no, world lives on hope. Umeed pe duniya jeeti hai. You know, that's how it is. I said, it might be if you are in a world, but on a spiritual level, hope is not a good spiritual word. What we forget is hope is the subtlest form of desire, the most subtlest part of, I didn't get it today, but I'll get it tomorrow. I don't have it now, I will have it tomorrow. That's what hope is. But it removes your happiness from today to some distant moment. To your satisfaction now becomes something that will happen in the future. Hope is all about future. Spirituality is all about being present, being right here. So I understand that people need hope, but at the same time, be aware that you're not mortgaging your happiness to some future time, to saying, Aaj main khush nahi, I'm not happy today, but tomorrow I'll be happy. So just make sure that you're not doing that. Now I'll give you the opposite. A word that most of the world thinks of as negative is surrender. But in spiritual language, it is not. The world out there thinks surrender is when one side gives up, they put their weapons down and they bow to you and they say, okay, we give up. So surrender has been sort of thought of as a word that means that you have given up, you have lost hope, all of that. But on spiritual level, only the highest intelligence is capable of surrender. Surrender is not somebody who does because they're weak. Surrender is actually only done by the brave. The ultimate act of intelligence, the terminal act of intelligence, has to be surrender. Why? You can go try to fathom the mystery of universe, mystery of God. You can try to find answers to it through your head, through your mind, through your intellect. But one day you'll give up, because doesn't matter, the genius of geniuses go looking for it. One day they'll hit a wall, because this God, this existence, this universe is an ever deepening mystery. You think you discovered something, but it goes deeper, goes further out, further out. Ultimately, intelligence has to recognize that my faculty of brain, of my mind, is not strong enough, not in depth enough to understand it all. Then there must be some other faculties that I must bring forward. What are those faculties that I must bring forward? Because my intelligence surely is not going to get the job done. And at that moment is the beginning of surrender. When you realize that my intellect is not it. Something else has to be. You realize that the gratitude has a lot to do with understanding this universe. That's when you recognize that humility has a lot to teach me. And that's when you also realize that maybe love can give me more. And when you surrender to these three qualities of gratitude, humility, and love, that takes you very far. And that is surrender. Surrender is only for the brave. Surrender is only for the intelligent. True surrender will help with karma moving forward. True surrender. Most of the times when people say surrender, they're not surrendering everything. They're not. They always preserve a little bit something for themselves. I'm always reminded, and I think I've told this story many times, a friend of mine always used to come and see me for lunch, and he wanted to talk spirituality. He was a bank manager, and at lunchtime he is always coming for the spiritual talks, and he would say, "Jo bhi mujh mein acha hai, that which is good in me is God's. That which is negative in me, bad in me, ugly in me is mine." So he would say that every time, and after about the third time I said to him, I said, "You're very, very, very clever." He goes, "No, but I'm surrendering to God." I said, "No, you're not surrendering to God. You are still preserving yourself. Somewhere in you saying everything negative is mine and everything good is God's, guess who you saved? You still saved yourself and your ego. Oh, everything bad in me is mine. You separated from God. Ego is separation. And now your mind is creating separation in what you think is a holy way, the sacred way. Everything good in me is God. If you want to surrender, surrender it all. As I am, I surrender today. As I am today, good, bad, ugly, so, whatever's in me, whatever I've done, I surrender it all. When that surrender happens, then karma belongs to God, to the universe. But if you keep saving yourself as an ego, then you will still keep creating karma. You have to be aware, where am I coming from all the time? What games is my mind playing on me now? What games is my mind playing with me today? Some people become pious. They start doing they read Bible every day, they start doing arti every day, they do part, they read Bhagavad Gita all the time. And then they say, "Oh, today I did part." What they don't know is their ego now is hiding behind them doing the part, them reading Bible. "Oh, I read Bible every day." Who reads this Bible? I. Highest is this surrendering of I. Eventuality, the highest surrender is surrendering of I. I am not, only the whole is. Everything is, God is. I am just an imagination of my own mind. And once you realize that I really don't exist, I am but one small little imagination, little whim of God. And so whatever happens through me belongs to God. That's when the karma no longer touches you. So when you do good and you say, "Oh wow, I did something good." No, you didn't do nothing. God through you did. God through you did. When you are totally convinced and it doesn't even register in you that I did something good, that's when truly the karma is no longer yours. Indians have a word which I haven't found an equivalent in English yet. And that word is beautiful. That word is das. I say it, I think I told you guys many times. The word is das. And now that will play into what I'm just saying about surrender and all of that. Das, most people will translate it in English as a servant or as a slave. But das is neither. Das is not a slave or a servant. Das is somebody with their complete intelligence, with their complete fortitude, with their complete willpower. Now they have dedicated themselves to something higher, to God, to the universe, to existence. They have now said, whatever is in me, I dedicate to you. Whatever will happen, I am a das, das of God. This is when you surrender yourself with your strength and intelligence. That's a das. It's a beautiful word. May you all be das. Surrender is obviously from the path of love. Most people take on path of love, of bhakti, because they think it's easy. Surrender is the end game of bhakti path, the path of love, the path of devotion. But it must lead to complete, absolutely complete surrender. Great Chinese saint opens his book, Tao Te Ching, by two simple phrases. He goes, those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know. That was his opening lines. Okay? They've been translated in many different ways, but that's what it means. Those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know. But at the same time, he then goes on to write this book of 82 verses. So he does use words, he does put what he knows into this book called Tao Te Ching. Beautiful book, very short book. One of the great books that I think I have read at least 7 different versions of the same book, because the book is in Chinese and it was written 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Everybody translates it differently, and plus it being Chinese, for an Indian guy living in Canada to understand it, I want to hear the translation of it from many different sources, and hopefully with my own meditative practice I can understand it, obviously. Coming back to your question, words are also needed. I'm also reminded of this saint in India who was trying. So he had every Upanishad, every Granth, every good book that he could find, he had brought it home. And he was so full of books and so full of words. He knew everything, that he had read it all and he could narrate everything, and etc., etc. But one day he gathered them all up, took them outside the village and lit them all to fire. Because worst mistake you can do is stay with the words. In spirituality, the words are used to point you towards that is wordless, that which is silence, that which is beyond speaking. And the thing is, it all has to point within you, because words are and they should only be used as fingers pointing at that. And that is more like nothingness, like emptiness, like silence, like stillness. So how can you use any words to describe that, which is more like nothing? So obviously, the words are impotent. They fall away. But not everybody is at that stage yet, where they start comprehending that which is not being said, that they start resonating with silence. The stillness speaks within them. They're not there yet. So the words are needed, but then words must be dropped. Words are needed at early stages to ignite thirst in you, to become capable of that. Capable of hearing silence. That's the journey. Everything else is just devices. Words are just devices. A spiritual person uses words to get you to go home to that place within you where nothing stirs, Nothing moves, no words, just complete, pure silence that is pregnant with the universe. It is not nothingness as we know it. It is not emptiness as we know it, but it is full, it is complete. Again, I'm using words to describe that. And if you could really look within my own head right now, you will see how impotent I feel my words are. Maybe my eyes that don't have words in them can maybe convey better. I hope like my hands, my body language can convey that more to somebody who is seeking silence. Because these words are just excuses. This is my karma. This is God has chosen that I should do today. So words have their place till a certain point. Books have their place till a certain time. Granths have their place till a certain point. All Bhagavad Gitas and Bibles have a point till a certain point. Then everything has to be dropped. And submersion into the divine must happen. Don't remain married to your books, to your granths. However they are not it. All those words in all of those granths are pointing towards that. Wahan jana hai. Wahan jao. Go to the moon. Seek the moon. Don't get married to the fingers. That point. And words are obviously fingers pointing at the moon. The word moon right now is basically a metaphor for me, is to describe, it's just an old phrase, you know, all words are fingers pointing at moon, fingers pointing at God. Because in the old days, moon was unreachable. As most people felt, God was unreachable. So it's just describing, now we know that there's some countries thinking of inhabiting moon and going and staking their claim on this moon. I totally understand that. So humanity is a strange phenomena. While we can be extremely daring, inquisitive, smart, intellectual, deeply spiritual, have human beings that have reached the heights of spirituality. But then there's an ugly side to us. There's a self-destructive side to us which wants to bomb fellow human beings, kill fellow human beings, torture, all of that. It's a great seesaw in a human being of the good and the bad. While the potential to do good is infinite, but also at the same time, the seesaw on the negative side, when it's on the low side, our potential to do harm, to do negative things is also unlimited. This drama cannot be changed because that's the human nature. Sure, the whole idea is to see this world for the seesaw that it is and say, I see the seesaw. I will no longer allow myself to be doing this. I will grow beyond this. I will grow beyond this. And this world will always have good people, ugly people. Your job is, if something is calling in you to be spiritual, be spiritual. Earlier we were talking about how far human beings have come and how, in actuality, in some ways, we have come very, very far. But in some ways, we haven't come very far at all. Long time ago, people used to show off what a nice horse they have. Today, they show off what a nice car I have. In the old days, they would show off their house that didn't even have electricity in it, but today we show off palaces that we have all built. So, yes, the props have changed, but human beings' relationship with these props is still the same, if not worse. We still are enamored by bodies. There were bodies long time ago. There were kings who had 100 wives and this and that. There are people nowadays who jump from a boyfriend, girlfriend. They're jumping. So in some ways, it hasn't changed. Yes, the props on the stage of life have changed. And there are new and different ways to keep us entrenched. The other day, I was telling somebody, I said, if Buddha had the amount of distractions that are available today, would Buddha be able to seek his enlightenment? There are so many distractions nowadays, but this is where you must, your singularity within you, the singular focus must come into play. Somebody asked about yoga. Yoga is a practice. Yoga is not some fancy dancy exercises. Oh, there's flow yoga today, there's this yoga today. Yoga exercises, yoga asanas, yoga poses were but a very small part of a much greater practice to go unite with God again, to unite with the source once more, to dissipate that which has separated you from that, which is mostly ego. Ego tends to make your mind set in its ways. Yoga exercises are designed so that you can have a flexible body. Flexible body will lead to flexible mind. If you have truly done some yoga, there is a point in a stretch where you think that you have reached the end. But then you breathe into it again, and the stretch deepens. And then you use your breath again. This is uncharted territory in your stretching game. But this stretching, while you're stretching this body, your mind is also getting expanded. It's becoming more elastic, more flexible, more malleable. It's not getting set in its ways. It's becoming malleable. A malleable mind is more open to dissipation of ego, because it's always thinking of what am I doing wrong, what is not serving my journey, well, how do I go from here? So yoga exercise is, in a deeper context, part of spiritual practice. From my personal experience, I can tell you that if you can combine the exercise part of yoga with also spiritual practice, there's nothing like it. It is wonderful. It is not even about how far you can do the certain poses or how deep you can be. Just the fact that you are there and prepared to be flexible. And that combined with the fact that you have a spiritual practice in which you are always, and that can be multifaceted, but all spiritual practice is to allow this I, this ego, move aside. I want to look at the sky beyond. So yoga in exercise form can absolutely help. And obviously there's other aspects of that you can bring forward. Pranayam, breathing exercises, meditation is an integral part of yoga method of reaching the divine. So all of these, if they come together, yoga can be extremely powerful. Yeah, in the Western society, and now unfortunately even in Indian society, yoga has lost its original meaning, to unite. To unite with what? With God, with the whole. We have separated ourselves. This I has become too strong. We have separated ourselves. All of our anxiety, all of our worry, all of our pain and suffering comes from this island that you have created, this wall that you have created around yourself, and you say, this is I. And a little bit wider, this is mine. And that's where the suffering comes from, pain comes from. And the whole exercise of yoga is to drop these walls that we have spent a lifetime building and say, okay, I go home now. You want to get a glimpses of the divine. And he who has ever had a glimpse of divine never can go back to the old ways. The funny thing is, I even get approached in gym regarding spiritual questions. Here I'm exercising. And, this guy comes to me, he goes, and I know he meditates and I know he does that. He goes, just last night and this morning, I had a glimpse. I disappeared for a while. And I don't know where I was, but it was beautiful. And he goes, can you please tell me what this experience was? I said, God in His infinite grace and infinite wisdom, if He finds somebody who's seeking Him, and with genuineness they're seeking God, and they're really, really honest seekers, at a certain point, and in the most unexpected times, He starts giving you glimpses of the land beyond, of nothingness, of no mind, as it's called. You will have a glimpse and you will feel this tremendous connection of this no mind space. And it is joy and peace and bliss like you have never felt before. You can't describe it, but you felt it. You can never be the same. And a lot of times what happens to people who have ever experienced that, Japanese even have a term for it. The term is Satori. Genuine, fleeting glimpses of divineness, of that beautiful bliss. It's amazing that He sends that in small doses in His infinite wisdom. Because if God was to drop into these ego-fueled minds, this mind will go crazy. Most people, if the ocean of bliss dropped into a spoon will not know what happened. So God, before God comes completely, He sends a few glimpses here and there, here and there, here and there, in unexpected times. That is God getting you ready for, if you continue your trajectory of growth and spirituality and keep going, one day those glimpses start becoming a little bit bigger. The window of no mind grows and grows and grows and grows. And one day you bathe in it fully. So that's what this is all about, is to, what is no mind, but when mind is inactive, mind is fully present, and obviously there is no thoughts. Forget about thoughts. There is not even the one that is looking at the emptiness. Even the meditator has disappeared in his meditation. Beautiful story, I'll tell you guys. Beautiful Chinese story. I'll just call her Empress. Empress Wu had this beautiful room that was not being used. And she commissioned this great artist, to paint her a painting. And this guy, this great master comes and locks himself in this room and takes all of his paints and start painting. He hardly ever comes out. He's just in there painting. And one day Empress says, Yeah, I commissioned a painting. Months have gone by. I haven't seen what he has done. So she goes and knocks on the door, and he peeks out of the door, gently opening a little bit. She goes, when am I going to see this painting that you're working on? He goes, just give me a couple of days. She goes, I'll come back tomorrow and check. She comes back next day, and he goes, just give me one more day. Come back. Painting is almost ready. And she goes, no, I want to take a look. She comes inside and she sees this most magnificent painting of this beautiful landscape with this path going off and this beautifully done. She can't take her eyes off it. And she goes, wow, it's so beautiful. It's all done. He goes, no, it's not done yet. Do me a favor, come back tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be totally done. And obviously the next day comes. She knocks on the door. Nobody answers. Nobody answers. She opens the door, goes inside. This master painter is nowhere to be seen. And then only thing that she can look is that there was this path that was leading to nowhere in this beautiful painting that he had painted. And she sees this speck of a person that looks like this painting master. The painter had disappeared into the painting. True meditation is like that. When the meditator, who has been practicing meditation for God knows how long, and one day he just disappears. That's it. And that's the truth. When you disappear, that's the truth. That's the end game. When the meditator disappears into that, that's true meditation. Everything else is just practice. Everything else is just practice. You will always remember this story now of this beautiful Chinese master, painter, who disappeared into his painting. Beautiful story, beautiful story. So poignant.